What is up, everybody? I am your host, Rob Younts, and thank you for tuning back into the Canecast Show. If today happens to be your first episode, you are in for a treat. If you've been with us before, we really appreciate you coming back. Either way, today's guest is a Virginia Tech Hokie alum and a Major League Baseball pitcher. But before we get into that, I'd like to ask you a favor. Please help us grow this show. You can do it in many, many ways. First, just give us a like. Smash the like button. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast host, smash that like button. You can drop us a comment to let us know what you like about the show. You can help us grow our community by subscribing. This lets others know that this show is legit. You can show us some love with a review or even share it. Share this episode with your friends and enemies who are missing baseball right now. Well, let's get into the show because today we are talking with Joe Mantiply. He was on Coach JeffPetty's original Canes team. He had an outstanding career in the ACC, leading the Hokies to an NCAA Regional host. He's thrown in the big leagues for the Tigers and last year with the Yankees. Let's listen to Joe talk about his throwing routine and his work ethic it takes to be successful in baseball. So make sure your battery's charged and you're ready to listen to Joe bring that heat. Hey, what's up, everybody? Rob Younts here with JeffPetty and a very special guest today. So we've got another Canes alum who has some real good dirt on Coach Petty. I mean, is a really good guy and played college baseball at Virginia Tech and has had an awesome journey through pro baseball. Joe Mantiply. Joe, so awesome to have you out here this morning. Do me a favor real quick before we get started, before we interview you, turn that camera around, show everybody what we're looking at today.
Yeah, just a decent morning here in northwestern Virginia.
Gee whiz, that's awful. Absolutely awful. Don't know how you're making it, pal. Anyway, well, welcome to the show. Give everybody a little bit of background on you about where you've been, kind of your baseball journey, and tell them who Joe Mantiply is.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to thank you guys, Rob and Jeff, for having me on. Jeff texted me last week, and from the jump, I've been pumped to do this. So, but I grew up in Danville, Virginia. I went to Tunstall High School and played for Jeff in 07, I think was the summer. Maybe 08 was the summer.
The years run together, brother.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny because I only played we laugh about it all the time. I only played one summer with the Canes, but it was like it always felt like I played, my whole travel ball career with the Canes.
But that fall, didn't he give you permission to?
Yeah, so we were. My dad was big on commitment, and so before the Canes, I was with North Carolina Baseball Academy, which is right down the road from where we grew up, and so that summer that I played with the Canes, North Carolina Baseball Academy wasn't playing that summer. And so we tried out, but when it came to the fall, I played with them the year before. And so my dad was like, look, like we've already kind of committed to these guys. But they didn't go to like Jupiter, and I don't know what the other tournament was in the fall.
Right.
Big tournament. But so we went to that, obviously we went to that with the Canes. But then I played at Virginia Tech from 09 to 13, 09, 010 to 13. And then got into pro ball. Just kind of been bouncing around the last couple of years. But, just been able to just always kind of been kind of a grinder. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very appropriate. Jeff, what do you remember about a young Mantiply wearing a Canes uniform?
That summer he was with us, Joe, were you one of the only guys committed?
I think I was the first guy committed on that team.
Well, you came to us committed.
Yeah, I had already committed.
So
I committed the fall of my junior year of high school.
Well, back then, obviously for the listeners, I mean, people are like, fall of junior year, like that's a late commitment. No, back then that was an early commitment.
Yeah. I was the
Yeah,
first
like,
guy on the team, I think. I think maybe Ethan was committed to South Carolina, maybe.
maybe, yeah. So that was a team full of Division One players, like high-end, high-level Division One players, and Joe was the first one committed. But what I remember is just a big, tall lefty with 3 pitches. Changeup was really good. Got people out. Wasn't scared to throw his fastball in any count. Has never been scared of really anything. He's a tough dude. And obviously, as he's gotten older, I mean, gotten bigger, stronger, and had a really good career in college. Made it to the big leagues. Made it all the way to the show. You bounced around, but toughness, man. He's a tough dude.
Yeah.
Tough dude. That's what I know. That's what I think of.
Still grinding.
Sure. That's good. Yeah, Joe. So how's your repertoire changed over the years? I mean, are you still the same type of pitcher? What's happened along your journey that shaped you to where you are now?
Yeah, I'd say I'm still like my core, motivation as a pitcher, or my foundation is still the same. 3 pitches, try to throw all 3 pitches for strikes. I think my stuff kind of took a tick when I was a starter in college, and threw a lot. And I think when I moved to the bullpen in pro ball, my stuff kind of took a little bit of a jump. But yeah, I mean, just like, I think my biggest attribute would probably be like my competitiveness. Even on days where I'm not feeling great, maybe kind of questioning my stuff a little bit, because my stuff's never been like really wipeout or kind of anything overpowering. But I feel like once I get on the mound in the game, I'm just competing, and I try to execute as much as I can. That's what I try to focus on more than maybe trying to, rear back and blow guys' doors. I feel like for me, I'm not like an elite stuff guy, so execution is a little more important than trying to, max effort everything in there.
Yeah, that makes sense. So tell us about Virginia Tech. You had a really good career there. Cover some of the high points and even some of the low points if you can.
Yeah, it was it was probably the best 4 years of my life. Like I've got so many buddies. I actually played 4 of us on the Canes all ended up playing together. So me and Chad Morgan and Chad Pender and Patrick Scoggin, we all played that same summer together, and we all ended up going to school together. So that was cool. But yeah, like I came in and, that was a place where like when I was getting recruited, I wanted to stay close to home, and I wanted a place that, I was going to be able to play like right away. And when I was getting recruited, that's one thing Coach Hughes he didn't give me say like, you're going to play. But he was like, look, we're going to give you a chance to compete. And then, that's really all I was looking for. I didn't want to go somewhere where I was going to be kind of like not throw that many innings. I wanted to like get out there and play. And when I went, when I first visited, I committed so soon just because when I went up there, it just like, I just loved the place. It wasn't even so much about like facilities, all that stuff didn't really matter to me. I liked the coaching staff. I liked what they were doing. And, I wanted to compete and play. So that all kind of just, fit.
How about the run going to hosting the regional at Virginia Tech? That was an electric.
Oh yeah, that was.
I mean, that kind of proved that
was nuts.
Virginia Tech is a baseball town that weekend.
For sure, we were really good my freshman year too. We played in the regional at South Carolina. They won it all that year, but we had some unbelievable talent on my freshman team, that 2010 team. And then in 13, my junior year was 12 and I didn't sign. But I knew that what we had coming back the next year. Now my sophomore and junior year, we were kind of borderline, not great, but coming back senior year, like we knew we were going to be really good. So that was probably the driving factor for me going back to school, was just like, I was going to be kind of one of the leaders on the team, kind of the anchor of the pitching staff, and, just really wanted to go through that. And turned out it was pretty nuts, like hosting that regional and stuff. First time in school history. And, all of us, that was probably the best team we've had in that history of the school. The guys from the 2010 team would probably argue that, but.
Rob, do you remember we opened up our Canes summer in Blacksburg the weekend that they were hosting the regional?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
y'all were there.
Well, we had Virginia Tech. Obviously, we couldn't use the field for good reason.
Yeah.
But we used all the surrounding fields, and we were getting tickets to go to the regional. And I actually showed up when y'all were playing Oklahoma, and I couldn't get over how packed it was.
It was unbelievable.
They brought in a bunch of like stands from the outside, like they rented.
They had them like all the way down the first base side. Yeah,
nuts. It was like the football atmosphere, but
for sure.
A baseball game,
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, it was. I remember like us, we were all kind of looking up in the seats, like, wow. We didn't like we thought we knew there was going to be a lot of people, but it just looked different in that seeing it all in person.
It's awesome.
Yeah. How about the facilities now?
Wow. I mean, when I first went there, like we didn't even have the hitting building when I first got there. We were building it, but it wasn't finished yet. And like seeing what they've done now, man, wow, it is something else. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to see a game or anything just because, I'm playing in the spring. But no, once I'm done with ball, I'll definitely be a regular for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's beautiful, man. So you get to pro ball. Tell us how you got there, and what that first season was like. Walking in the clubhouse for the first time. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was I actually dealt with kind of like an injury at the beginning of my senior year. Ended up having my best season. I pitched really well my senior year. Got drafted late and went to short season. And kind of the vibe in pro ball when you first get there, you got like the high round guys and everybody's kind of mixed together, and it's just like, there's always this little bit of like sizing people up. And I think like later round picks kind of, you really see like the first year of pro ball is kind of like summer ball, almost like college summer ball. Everybody's having fun. It doesn't seem all that, serious until you really get to spring training and you see like the whole group. And then it's like, oh, wow, this is work. This isn't play, this is a business. And so I tried to just take a business-like approach. No more kind of like joking around or I'd still joke around, but just taking the game a lot more serious. And I just tried to hit the ground running, man. I didn't want to hold anything back. I feel like whenever I'm in like a competitive situation, I just kind of like, no matter what I'm doing, as soon as I cross the lines, like it's all about competing and trying to beat the guy that's in the box. So, and fortunately I was able to stay healthy for most of my pro ball career for the beginning, which I think is huge for young guys. It's like kind of establishing yourself. Guys that get hurt, I've seen a lot of guys that are really, really good that just unfortunately get hurt early and you just get jumped. There's always a guy waiting to take your spot. So.
Right. So you mentioned earlier that your velocity took a tick. You jumped up a little bit. Going from a starter to relief. Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, what do you think? What do you attribute that to, and how'd that help you at that point?
I just think that for most guys that go from starting relieving, you see it like more common guys going to the bullpen. But I was probably like 86 to 90 as a starter, maybe touch 91, and then I didn't really jump too high above 91, but those 89 to 91 got more consistent. And for me, I think I throw kind of funky. I got a little, like, some deception, and just that more consistent higher range of my velo, I think, just kind of gave a little more, a little less time for the hitter. Was kind of jumping on guys a little bit. And I just, I started having good results and just kind of, ran with it. I just tried to keep focus on, what I was doing. Every day I play catch, I'm trying different stuff, and I'm just trying to, I'm always trying to get better is my goal. Is like every day, if I can do, find some kind of feeling that will help the ball, come out of my hand more consistent or something, whatever it is. I'm just always, always trying to get better.
Yeah. So we during this shutdown time, I know, Jeff and I have talked about your setup out there. You want to bring us up to speed on what you're doing out there? Cause it's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. So we, my wife and our daughter live with our in-laws, and we have a farm up here. And, I've always been last couple of years, it's always been tough trying to find a catch partner. Early in my throwing program, my wife played softball. So, I'll play catch with her sometimes if it's just a light day, less than 90 feet. And I was always trying to find a way to long toss or kind of really put effort, because I can't throw 100% when I'm throwing with her. And so I started thinking about how can I best prepare myself when I get to spring. I early in the spring has always been, I've always had trouble feeling like I'm ready to go when I get to spring training. I don't quite feel prepared. And so I bought a hitting net, and I've got these 2 4x4s that I just dug a hole and stuck them in the ground, and I put this net up kind of raised, and I can long toss into it. And then this off season, I got into trying to find a way to maybe kind of gain a little velo. And my idea, there's all these weighted ball programs and all this stuff, and I think that stuff works, but I think the best thing it does for guys is it gets you to maximize your effort level. So I bought one of the little pocket radar things, one of the little radar guns. And for me, when it comes to, I looked at it as a way of kind of in conjunction with weightlifting. If I'm trying to get stronger and increase my max, say my squat max, well, I have to establish a max and then work off of that. So I bought one of the little radar guns, and the first day I went out, I'd been throwing for probably 2 or 3 months, and I thought I had days where I was doing long toss days, and I thought I was using pretty good effort. Thought I was throwing as hard as I could, and then I put the gun on there, and I couldn't get over this is a running crow hop. I was throwing 86 max effort, and I was like, oh boy. We could be in trouble here. So eventually, that first day, I was actually getting mad. I probably made 70 throws, max effort throws. And I finally got to 90 miles an hour on the thing. So I was like, all right, well, this is going to be my max. And so I kind of broke it down into.
What was the distance?
I don't know what the distance was. I was throwing into the net.
Do you have an estimated distance?
I'd say 300 feet, probably.
Okay.
But for me, when it came to, all right, how can I judge my effort level? I think there's 2 things. There's distance, and then there's velocity.
Sure.
And so I didn't want to just huck balls into the field and have to go pick them up. So I was like, all right, I'm going the velocity route. So I made kind of my own program I would throw one bullpen a week on a Sunday. And then Monday I would take off. And then I would have what was called low volume and high volume days is what I called them. And so Monday would be an off day. Tuesday would be a low volume day. And I would get loose. I'd probably make 30, 35 throws to get loose. Just kind of warm up, get to where I feel like I can cut it loose.
So you had a bucket,
then,
like a bucket of baseballs sitting here, like a lot of baseballs?
Yeah, just a bucket of balls.
Okay.
Bucket of balls and a net. And when I got to where I was, loose, I would do maybe 20 to 30, like pretty high effort throws. Not everything I have, but pretty high effort on the radar gun. To where I was like I wanted to be consistently around 90, like 89, 90, maybe even if I hit harder than that, great. And then the next day, so that was Tuesday. On Wednesday, I would come out, and that would be like what I called the high volume. And I mean, after I warm up, it's just balls to the wall, just absolutely letting it rip with everything I had. And now take this, I started throwing in like October. So like this is December. And so I'm like, I've been throwing for a while. So I was good to cut it loose. And after about 4.5 weeks, I think on, and then, okay, so I'll go back. That was Wednesday. It's high volume. So after the high volume day, I'd take Thursday off. And then I'd do it again, low volume, high volume, but then I'd throw a bullpen on Sunday.
So you throw a bullpen after a high volume day?
Yeah. So what I'd found was now I wouldn't radar my bullpens. So my bullpens weren't like max effort, or I would just kind of go through a regular bullpen routine. But what I found was after my days off, now I had a couple times where I would like really cut it loose on after a day off just to see. And my numbers were always higher after my low volume day. So after a day of throwing pretty good effort, the next day cutting it loose, that's when I would hit like my best numbers.
So Wednesdays and Saturdays.
Wednesdays and Saturdays. That's when it was like, all right, now I'm trying to PR. I'm trying to freaking max out today.
Right.
And then I would go up to maybe like 40 throws. I wouldn't go over 40 throws. And my thought behind the volume is, if I'm getting ready when I go to spring to be a multiple inning guy, so 2 to maybe 3 innings. So around 40 max effort throws is what I feel like I need to be prepared for when I'm going to spring. So that's where I got my numbers from. But I found after about 4.5 weeks, I went from, I guess my max was 90 when I started. My average was probably like 86. After 4.5 weeks, those high volume days, my max was 93 and consistently. And my average was like 91 on those throws that day. And so and these are like full running crow hop throws. And I'm, wondering like, what is this going to translate to when I get on a mound? And I got to spring, and I mean, my last outing in spring training against Kansas City, I was 92, 93.
Wow.
With the heaters.
You're on to something. Can I ask you a question? Like, I feel like it's a balance, but you hear like old school coaches, let's say, here's an old school coach that Mike Covington. Mm-hmm. He's old school. And
really old school.
He says that kids nowadays are soft. They don't throw enough.
Yeah.
They're so worried about throwing too much and that it's crushing them. Yeah. And that back in the day, people threw all the time. American Legion was a big thing. Like American Legion schedules, Rob, back in the day. I mean, I played Legion ball. I'm sure you did as well. Like those were like 50 game schedules. Like you played 9-inning games, like 4 9-inning games a week.
Yeah.
And people would just throw all the time. There wasn't all these rules, and I like the rules. But here you are, like you're throwing, like your plan that you put together, you're throwing a ton. You only have 2 off days in a week.
Yeah.
You're bolting 93s from the mound, and you've really never done that like
Ever.
before in your life.
Ever. Not
And
like,
I don't know, man. Maybe it's because you're throwing a lot.
yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
I think that for me, I think it's just like, it's a controlled program. I think like there's a lot of different throwing programs, and I think they all are beneficial. I just think it's about finding one that you commit to, like committing to it. So like I do crossover symmetry. That's always been kind of like my shoulder thing that I like, because it's, you can basically work both shoulders. Their iron scat program I really like. So that's the shoulder program I've always really liked, and you can do it pretty much anywhere. It's got the straps that hang on a door, and
how many days
you
a
can
week
do
do
them.
that?
I'll do their activate. So they have like an activation program. I do that every day that I throw. So I'll do a full stretch routine, and then I'll do their activation program.
I'm writing this down.
And
I love this.
okay, and
This is I love this, man. This is awesome.
yeah, and then after they have another program that's called Iron Scat, and I'll do that after my days that I throw. Now my off days, like it's kind of been weird since being back. Like yesterday was an off day, but I didn't work out. So I kind of did some stuff on the farm and ran some errands, but I ended up not working out.
Iron Scat is post throw?
Post throw, yeah.
What's pre-throw activation?
Yeah, it's called activation. And so I'll do my post throwing, I'll do Iron Scat, and then some days I'll do stuff. So I had TJ a couple years ago, and I really learned a lot about shoulder strengthening and just kind of injury prevention is really what I learned through my rehab. So some days I'll do stuff. I won't do the Iron Scat. It's pretty, like the Iron Scat's pretty, it's pretty strenuous. It's pretty tough. So I'll do like, some days I'll just do like, Job exercises and band work and stuff. Just depends on, if I'm feeling a little sore, and so, yeah, I mean, I think for one, I think a shoulder program is huge, and, buying into a program. So I think these weighted ball programs, essentially that's what their goal to do is to maximize your effort and strengthen your shoulder. So I think that stuff works.
If you do it at the highest level.
If you do it, if you do it the right way and you're working with the source, I think those programs are easy to kind of like veer off and kind of maybe go down a bad road. But I was thinking, like, my whole basis behind trying to come up with my own program was like, okay, I don't like throwing balls that are lighter than a baseball. I feel like when I go back to my weightlifting analogy, like if I'm trying to hit a max, like my max on a squat is like 350 pounds, I'm not going to jump under a bar and try to do 450.
Right.
Like, I think when you throw a lighter ball, you say if your max is 92, like, okay, I'm obviously going to be able to throw a tennis ball way harder, but my body, like, I'm never going to throw 100. So I don't agree. I don't think that's healthy. I think it's good. I think the basis of it teaching arm speed is good. Like, that's a good thought, but I just don't think it's good for your body. Heavy balls I don't think are the worst thing, because I don't think your body's going to let you go to a level where you're going to hurt yourself. And I think for like external rotation stuff, like heavy balls help. They help you get to external rotation, which is big in injury prevention, without as much effort.
Right.
Um,
So yeah, I met you in Arizona when you were rehabbing. You know, you touched on it, that you learned a lot there about injury prevention and things like that. What are some of the things? I mean, some of them are coming out in your program. We can hear that. But what are some of the other things you learned about prevention and taking care of your arm and your body?
Yeah. So the biggest thing I found when I got hurt, I had an awesome PT out there. The whole staff, Cincinnati's rehab staff, was unbelievable. But they, my PT basically explained it. He was like, "Look, like your shoulders really strong. Like you're one of the strongest shoulders like we've seen." He's like, "But you were lacking external rotation, like when you came into camp. So when we do our physicals, they measure all that stuff. So when you're lacking that external rotation, you're not getting as much external in your shoulder. So you're going to get to your position, like your layback, you're going to get there. But if that external is not there in your shoulder, then it's going to come from your elbow." And they think that my surgeon thinks that it was, my elbow's kind of been getting like, it looked like a long-term injury, kind of chronic. And then that spring, it just kind of went. But it was like the last straw. But my PT was like, "Look, you got to stay on this. We got to really work on this external rotation," because that's where he thought it wasn't a lack of strength. So that was a big thing for me. And so just finding, like, not only I've always been a big like strength, like try to get big and strong as possible and not really worried about too much mobility stuff. And then that's when I kind of changed gears that year rehabbing and was basically focused on, all right, I'm plenty strong. I need to work on kind of hip mobility, shoulder mobility, like really get into that frame of mind, which I think would be more beneficial as I get older, especially like keeping me healthy and keeping me on the field. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the neat thing is after that rehab, it seems like it paid off because you're back on the big league diamond last year. Tell us about that.
Sure.
How did that feel? How did that, knowing that you'd gone through rehab and that whole process to kind of getting back on a major league field, how'd that feel?
Yeah, I mean that was unreal. Like, so I rehabbed for 15 months, and it was actually 14 months. A lot of people don't know this. I got sent to Chattanooga, off of my, once I got cleared. I threw like 10 innings in the AZL and extended, to get my innings up. And then they sent me to Chattanooga, which was AA. And so my wife and I, who was pregnant at the time, we drove from Phoenix to Chattanooga. This was on like a Saturday or Sunday. And then I pitched on Monday, got there on Sunday, pitched on Monday. Well, threw my first inning, went good. Second inning, a couple guys got on, no outs. Guy pops up a bunt. I dive and dislocate my glove arm, my shoulder.
Pitchers are
and and like as soon as I did it, I was like, what am I doing? So
competing,
dislocate my non-throwing shoulder, and then that was on Monday. By Friday, I was back in Arizona rehabbing my shoulder.
The other shoulder.
And
yeah.
My right shoulder, yeah.
Right.
And so it actually turned out to kind of be a little bit of a blessing in disguise because I also got another month to rehab my elbow. And I felt like the 15-month period is when I felt back to normal. Like I was having soreness, up until I felt good, like when I was throwing, but days after recovery and stuff was tough on my elbow. And at that like 15-month mark is where I felt like, okay, like I could throw 2 days in a row. But yeah, so like so I went back to Arizona for another 5 weeks, rehab my shoulder, and then got promoted, got sent to AAA. And then pitched pretty well. And then they had some suspensions in the big leagues. They signed a couple like veteran arms that I guess they were going to put them in the big leagues to cover their guys' suspensions, whatever. And so they came to me and were like, "Hey, look, we're going to try to trade you." I was like, "Okay." So the next day we come to the field, and after the game, they're like, "Hey, like I pitched that night," and they were like, "Hey, like we just traded you to New York." And so we were playing the Phillies AAA, which is right down the road from Scranton. And I was in Scranton in 2017. And so we went to I got a car service, went to Scranton, was there for 2 days, and they called me in and were like, "Hey, like you're going to meet the team in Toronto." So I was like juiced, like, wow. Yeah. And then pitched against Baltimore 2 days later, doubleheader, threw 3 innings, and then
in Yankee Stadium.
In Yankee Stadium in pinstripes, yeah.
Got my first win, big league win, and then unfortunately got DFA'd and optioned, but with that team that was pretty like it's kind of something in pro ball business thing that just it just happens. You just but just try to soak it in while you're there, man. It was freaking awesome,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. How was your stuff that day?
I was pretty good. I was like probably I'd say I was like 89, 91, which is what I was like that first year off of surgery, which was huge for me because that was my stuff was a little bit of a tick coming off of surgery, which I credit to probably the my shoulder program, and I made a few mechanical adjustments that I tried to work on. Yeah, man, I felt like I was in a really good place, and I just wanted to take that into the off season and keep rolling, keep building on it. So
let me ask this. So now the timeline is somewhere, it's obviously in the same season.
Yeah.
You're laying on the ground in Chattanooga with a dislocated shoulder here. And then over here, you're pitching at Yankee Stadium. Like, what's the difference between the two? I mean, just like, what are we talking about here? Like highs and lows, like crazy.
The thought of, it was unbelievable because, to be honest, like the guys said when I landed, that everybody thought it was my throwing arm, the way I landed. And like, if it's my throwing shoulder, that possibly could have been my career right there. That would have been tough.
Maybe done laying out for bunts.
Yeah, that's out of the question. That's off the menu.
Kind of like me running down Bourbon Street, never going to do that again.
Yeah, I actually get nervous. We were doing pop-up bunts in spring this year, and I was nervous.
Oh.
I was like, oh man, what if I'd like catch an edge and just trip and fall?
Right.
I had to tell myself like, all right, no diving, even though this is practice.
Wait, we're bigger dudes. Like when we fall, it's like a big deal.
It's not graceful, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's one thing about being a pitcher only for so many years. I've lost some athleticism, no doubt. But yeah, man, it was that was a crazy turn of events.
I'd say.
But
yeah,
I try to find a positive out of every negative situation, man. Just like whatever it is, just all right, this is what we got. Let's let's try to make the best of it. So, and I think that's kind of reflected some in my career, being able to turn the page, So.
Yeah. Yeah, and that competitiveness, I know, you're no longer diving for bunts, but that truly speaks to the toughness and competitiveness there. Especially coming out back after rehab, you want to get after it a little bit. And,
Yeah.
I can see that.
So I remember one more thing. I talked to my brother like right after that happened, and he's like, "Dude, what are you doing?" He's like, "Why are you diving?" I was like, if I knew I was going to dislocate my shoulder, I wouldn't have dove. Like,
right,
dude, no doubt, no doubt.
I got two on.
Yeah,
I got 2 on, no out. I'm not trying to give up a run in my first outing.
right. So true. So true.
Yeah.
So other than your throwing program, and I think the big takeaway there for me is that if you are a player now watching this or a parent, man, if your son really wants it, he'll do that. He'll do exactly what Joe's done, because everybody, I got to do this. I need to make sure we have practice, and I have to have this many throws, and oh, I need a catcher, and I need this. I mean, just find a way, man. Find a way to get it done. And Joe, you've always found a way to get it done, and that's what I know. Jeff, when you went back to Yankee Stadium, Jeff was sending texts out to everybody, and super excited for you. But what else are you doing during this time? I mean, I know you've got your throwing program. What else are you doing to stay sane and to make sure you're prepared?
Yeah, I think luckily I've got tons of space. I know guys that have very minimal space to try to make stuff work. I mean, this net I bought was like $50. It's not like it was a crazy investment or anything. The balls I have, I've just kind of like, I found them just like in my bags from over the years. And, but yeah, like we have, my wife's family, my in-laws, they've always liked to work out and stuff. So we've got some dumbbells. We have where my net is set up, there's like they had like a concrete basketball court up there. I've got an old tractor tire up there that I'll do tire flips and I'll hit with a sledgehammer. We have workouts, that kind of do like that. Another good thing that I learned through my rehab was really like I sat down with like the strength coach and was basically like, how do you teach me how you build your workouts, just so when I'm at home I can put together. I don't have to send you a text and knock down your door to get a workout plan. And he kind of gave me a basic template of what he goes through to build these workouts, and just having that knowledge, it's just like learning that now I can go pick up a cinder block and do like one-legged deadlifts or something with a little bit of resistance, and then the bands and stuff. So I try to get outside as much as I can, and luckily we have enough space out here to where can do whatever pretty much.
Yeah. What I think the neat part there is you're always asking questions. You mentioned it earlier, and that's why I kind of got into the program a little bit earlier, was that you're constantly tinkering and you're thinking there's a better way. And I think that's a great trait to have, especially somebody that was in your situation of you get shut down, you get surgery, and a lot of guys will just go through the program and they'll get back and everything's fine, but you're constantly trying to find a way to get better and get that 1% better. Really kind of cool to see and kind of really neat to hear, because I hadn't heard the whole story before. So, very neat, on how you're approaching things. So bringing us up to speed now, where are you in baseball and what's next for you?
Yeah, we're right now we're just it's weird being it's a weird time for minor league free agents right now. They just like a week or two ago they just terminated all minor league contracts, and they're doing like kind of a basic payment to minor league guys. throughout the year. Now, ESPN just released an article today about kind of a very like early stage plan for what they might be trying to do with the season. I think there's just a lot of unknown right now with kind of the virus going on and how they're going to make it work. So it'll be interesting to see. Like, I was still in camp when everything got shut down. And, you know, we all had all the non-roster invites kind of that were still there had, you know, got a call from the manager, and everything points to, from what I understood, that I will be, you know, brought back to camp whenever they do try to get it going. But that was also like a month and a half ago, and a lot could have changed. So I really don't know. But I'm just trying to stay as ready as I can. The pitching guy I work with, he basically was like, go back to January 1st and try to get back on your same plan. So I've tried to get my schedule throwing wise is pretty much on par with where I was before. And I thought, you know, it got me in a good place before I left. So I'm just trying to get back to just being ready when the phone rings and be able to pick up and get back at it.
Yeah, man. I mean, I know that's all you can do right now, but it's interesting to hear how everybody's handling this and their approach to it. And, you know, you're not used to the, you know, to the lights not coming on and not being out there. So I'm sure you're really antsy to get back after it. And it's
Sure.
Your program sounds perfect. You know, it sounds great. It sounds, and it's something that, you know, we tell everybody as well with the Canes and with our players, is that you have to have something you buy into. You have to have something you believe, because if you believe in it, you're going to work harder, and you're going to, you know, if you truly feel that your goal is at the end of that, you know, you're going to buy into it, and you're really going to put the effort in there. And, you know, like you said, there's days you don't feel good, days you don't feel like you got your best stuff, but you can work through it and still make improvements every single day. You know, your toughness is something that, you know, Jeff has always mentioned about you. And I guess that's, you know, your impression that you gave him when you were a Cane and then all the way through your career. You know, what do you attribute that to? Where does that come from?
I mean, I'd have to say it comes from my parents, the way I was raised, man. My dad played basketball in college. So he kind of knew like what he was a big help when it came to like the recruiting process. A big thing he always preached was commitment. Like when it came down to me between Virginia Tech and UNC Charlotte, and he basically was like, look, like, make sure that this is your decision that you want to make. So he's like, wherever you choose, we're not decommitting. Like when I was committing, that's when kind of, as far as I remember, that's when people like decommitting started like becoming a thing. People were kind of early verbal and they were, you started to see more and more people decommitting, going to another school. And so he was basically like, look, when you commit, you're committed. Like, we're not doing this decommitting. Like you're committing to the school. And, so my dad's always been, you know, big on just like competition and toughness. And I think it was just the way I was raised, like through sports. I had an older brother that I always had to compete with, and we're a pretty competitive family. So that's what I would contribute it to. And, you know, it's really, I've learned a lot from, sometimes my competitiveness got me in trouble when I was younger, when it came to maybe throwing some stuff and throwing temper tantrums. But I was just always, you know, really passionate about what I was doing. So I can't say that it is dumb, but when you're a younger kid, you're so immature, you don't really realize it. You know, you're just in the moment and you're so invested, and that's where I think those blow ups come. So I definitely think when my kids are older, I'm not going to support the temper tantrums, but I think that, you know, when you see that, it's just that, you know, the kid cares. You know, that kid wants to doesn't like to do bad, so.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jeff, do you see a lot of young Mantiply and the older Mantiply now?
I mean, he's grown up, man. I mean, but like he said, I don't think caring is a bad thing. It's just learning how to channel,
how to control it.
I mean, as a coach,
sure.
and I don't know where your path takes you when your playing days are over. You'll make a heck of a coach if you want to be one. But I think if you do get into coaching, you're going to love the guys that care. And the guys that don't care, it's going to burn you up. You're not going to like being around those guys.
No.
So that's my thing. I can't be around a bunch of guys that don't care. That's when I'll start doing stuff.
Yeah, I remember we were playing in a tournament at Myrtle Beach. We got knocked out of the tournament actually, but we played. Remember this, Jeff? We played that exhibition game.
I do remember it.
At Conway High School, and
I don't think the care level was real high that day, was it?
No. I think we got smashed
probably
by some like slappy team, and I mean Tessier threw a bat to third in the middle, like. Just the goofiest stuff happened. Swing and miss. The bat goes flying towards third. Like, I think he actually hit a bomb the next pitch. But anyways, after the game, Jeff was real serious back then too. Like, I know he's serious, but he was like, the young guy, the young coach, really
too much
trying to, at times. But I think it was me and Pender were just like kind of goofing off in your talk, and he just lost it. He's like, what? He was like, are you going to go to Virginia Tech next year and be goofing off in Pete Hughes's talk? Like, just scolding us. Oh man, it was great.
It's kind of funny you mentioned that. To this day,
I'll never forget that.
The one thing that lights me up over all of it is when a coach is talking. It doesn't have to be me.
Yeah.
It just be one of our coaches is talking, and like a kid is like looking off in this like distance or rolling his eyes or like grabbing his teammate. I will stop everything in that moment, and I will light your world on fire.
No, I agree too. And
I did it 3 weeks ago to my high school team.
Yeah.
I can't stand it. Like in the summertime, I remember we had Xavier Edwards and Anthony Siegler, both first rounders, were at IMG Academy like 4 years ago, and Tim Lowry was talking. Well, Tim Lowry's been coaching for like 35 years.
Yeah, legend.
And like, I think X was grabbing Siegler's butt. I don't know. He's grabbing him. They're like joking. And I lost it. I'm like, dude, this guy's been coaching double the amount of years that you've been alive, and you can't even listen to the guy for like 2 minutes. Drives me nuts.
But yeah, that one statement, like, I think I thought about it afterwards, and I was like, man, he's right. Like, I didn't know. Actually, I thought about it once I got to school and was like on the end of one of those Pete Hughes, like, I'm the coach deals, and it was like, wow, Jeff was right.
They don't put up with it.
No. But that was a good learning experience. The Canes, man, I had so much fun. Like, so many guys, like our whole team, like so many guys that I still like talk to weekly, like all the time.
What a great group of guys.
That was unreal.
That was a lot of fun even though I was a tyrant 27-year-old, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. We like to think of ourselves as a pillar for the Canes.
We had a lot of success with that group.
I agree with that.
Yeah, no, we were good. We had a good squad.
Bryn Renner, how about that?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, he was good. Man, there was a lot of good players. Chad Pender, Bryn Renner. We can go on and on. You, And Carter,
So I
Tyler,
got a question for you, Joe. Were you there? Were you
Okay.
there for the infamous sprint down Bourbon Street?
I wasn't. I don't know why. I don't
Did
know
you see the
why I
video?
couldn't make it. I'm sure I saw the video. I don't remember it.
yeah, you
But
saw
that,
it, for sure.
oh my gosh, I was watching Jake's podcast and he brought that story out and I was like texting him like, dude, this is unreal.
How's that for competitiveness?
We've had some good times.
Just the best content ever. We actually this offseason, me and Jake both went over to Jeff's and had dinner a couple nights, and they, we live like an hour from Jeff and Courtney.
Yeah.
And oh yeah,
McBroom was there too. We just had a great time.
yeah.
Just a really good group of guys. I consider y'all friends at this point. I mean, the fact that we were all together 10, 12 years ago or whatever it was,
For sure.
man, just it's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so last question, and then we'll let you go because I know you got workouts and things like that. What kind of advice would you give our kids, Canes kids that are watching, maybe some parents? What do you got for them? Share some of that knowledge you got.
Yeah, just I feel like my experience with the Canes was just like lifelong. Like I made so many connections and so many friends. It's big. It was bigger. The stuff that I carry with me now is bigger than the game. Like bigger than what bigger than just baseball. It was about relationships, and I think that's what was a founding concept of like Jeff's whole system is, he wanted to get similar people together to kind of reach a common goal. And, the common goal is to get these kids, to school, get these kids to college, to, use this sport to, further their career, whether it's, pro ball or Vandy or UVA or Virginia Tech, or if it's, some of these, D3, D2, just like, get this kid's exposure. And I think he does a really good job, and I'm a huge supporter.
Yeah, that's, you hit the nail on the head. It is all about the relationships. And I think a lot of people forget that and get caught up in the competition, which is certainly part of it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, being able to bring you on who played for Jeff, 10, 12 years ago, you're on to, bigger and better things with Major League Baseball and high level, minor league baseball. But to be able to come back and still share that relationship and still, be a part of it is really cool. And that's, Jeff has built something really cool to help foster those relationships and help further those relationships. And it's, it's guys like you, you're right. You guys were the pillars and are the pillars of the Canes. And, had there not been success early, who knows what this would have turned out like. I think the relationships would still be there. But that you guys certainly set the stage and set the standard for, the guys that came behind you, all these young guys now. So, we really appreciate you, being a Cane. Really appreciate the relationship. Appreciate you sharing, your time with us and sharing, what you're doing. And again, if people are out there watching this, man, if they have half the toughness as you, they're going to make it to college and hopefully into pro ball. But man, you're a total dude, man. I mean, we're happy to call you ours.
Yeah, for sure.
This has been one of the more educational ones, I feel like, Rob. And so when we do release it, I guess you're releasing it next week?
Yeah.
When we release it next week, we'll make sure that we let it known that this is, the listen education-wise. I mean,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Educational baseball talk.
Yeah, I mean, there's, for me, it's ending. The game is so crazy and there's so many things you can't control. But the two things that I try to tell myself that I can control is just my effort level and just being a good teammate. And, in the long run, when it comes to pro ball, those are the two things I feel that have really helped my career and kept me in a good standing with people, because those two things go a long way when it comes to, the game, I think. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sure.
Well, Joe, thanks so much, man. It's been awesome. You know what? If you want to drop by Jeff's for dinner, go ahead. But if there's hopefully we'll cross paths again soon. It was a pleasure meeting you. Pleasure, listening to your stories, man. You've got I fully expect you when the lights turn back on to see you back out there, and you got a lot of people following your career now from the Canes. So appreciate you very much, and have a wonderful day, bud.
for sure, guys. Thank you so much. And
Guys, thank you so much.
All right,
Thanks, Jeff.
later.
Wow, thanks so much for joining us today. Big shout out to Joe for joining us. Please give him a follow on all social channels at J Mantiply. That is JMANTIPLY. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a like, comment, subscribe, review, and share. Give us a follow on social media at CaneCast Show. You can reach out to me on all social channels at Rob Younce, or email me at robyounce@gmail.com. Welcome your feedback as we look to improve this show every single episode. Stay safe, wash your hands, and outwork everybody around you.